let's talk tension. We find that is sometimes hard to kind of understand what we need to actually change. Tell you the truth, most people start adjusting the tension when one of many other things need to be checked. The way that the machine is threaded, is the bobbining correctly? Do you have the correct needle for the fabric? Do you have the correct needle for the thickness of thread you've checked? But what I've done is I've put a different color thread in my bobbin, and it's actually a lighter weight. And I'm going to just start off, I'm going to pick a zigzag and make a really wide stitch, okay? Maybe lengthen it out just a little bit. Let's go ahead and just see where we are. So we are unbalanced, meaning there's a thicker thread in our needle than we do in our bobbin. Now, when I do stitch decorative stitches, I want a little bit different look. But right now, we've got red thread in the needle, and we have pink thread on the back side. Now, you will see these little dots of the darker pink from the top coming down to the back side. Usually with the zigzag, you want just a little tick along this way. Now, honestly, I'm seeing a little bit more than just the tick I'm looking for. I'm almost seeing a start of a little loop. So that means that I want to actually increase the top tension. I want the red to kind of help pull it just a little bit more to the top. Not a lot, because I want those threads to kind of meet in the middle of my fabrics, not at the top and not at the back. So we're going to come over here to the set menu or the tools, and the very first thing is tension. Now that number changes based on the stitch you're on. So if I pick a decorative stitch, this number might be at a smaller number to start with, which is okay, I still can adjust it. As soon as I arrow to the left side, that is going to reduce a tension. Make the smaller number is less, and we're only changing the top. So whatever's in your needle, that's the one you're changing. Now I said I wanted this a little bit tighter, so we're going to go up, starting from the 4.6, we're going to go up and make it tighter. Now, because this is a tenth of a change, you need to actually go up a ways, like a full number. So if I go up to 5.6, and then I can go ahead and sew from this screen, so I can stay here and change it if I need, which I like. Okay, let's see the difference here. Got a little less dots showing on this second run that I made, and actually I'm liking that. I can go a little bit further, but if I keep going too much, I'm going to start to get a little of the light pink up here, and that's not going to look as good either. For example, I mentioned these tensions change. Let's go ahead and choose, let's do row 3. So I'm going to go to my stitch menu button, arrow over to grouping number 3. It says 3 decorative. And let's do stitch number 13. 1, 3, do it fairly quickly so you get both numbers entered in. I just kind of picked a satin stitch here. Now, this is a very heavily stitched decorative stitch. So I'm going to sew out a couple of these. And there's the stop and the lock. There we go. Let's see what we're at here, how we look. Now, just because I changed the tension from the last run does not affect what I just did, because every stitch is different. I see a nice amount of the top thread pulled to the back side, and that's actually what I want. I do want to have about a third or a middle part of the bobbin thread showing and a little bit on each side coming to the back. Now this might be a little bit much, so if I actually increase that tension, notice it's going to start at 2.6. I'm going to go ahead and make it go up to 3.6. Okay, remember a whole number's worth if you're going to change it. 1/10 is not going to make any difference on your project. All right, raise up the foot, take a look at the change. See the difference? I still see the pink on the back side, the dark pink that is, and that's good. Now the main difference is I'm not using up as much of my decorative thread by pulling it back to the back side, but either one of these would be acceptable, because as what I don't want is I don't want any of that bobbin thread coming up here, because that almost, when it pulls the back side, makes it more rounded or lifted looking, and your decorative stitches are going to look prettier on your project. So depending on which way you go, remember one's going to make it worse, one's going to make it better. If you don't remember which way to go, you're either going to get better or worse, and then go the opposite direction if you don't get it the first time you do it. But remember, whole number or 2 numbers worth, up or down. Notice it is a highlighted number now, so I know that I've actually changed it from the default setting. Keeping in mind, once I go out of the tools or set menu, and I go to a different stitch, I go back to say a straight stitch, and I come back to that stitch number 13, when I go back to tools, it will reset that tension. So I would need to go back and change it based on the threads that I'm actually using in the machine. So that should give you a little bit about tension. Remember, don't reach for tension first. Make sure everything else is properly threaded before you start doing it. Tension is like one of the last things that I actually change until I need to get it to change the look on the front or back of my fabric.